I'll begin with Rabindranath Tagore's poem, Namaskar. Many of you may have, read it, and it was written for Sri Aurobindo. And the first few lines go like this. Rabindranath, O Aurobindo, bows to thee. O friend, my country's friend, O voice incarnate free of India's soul. No soft renown doth crown thy lot, not pelf or careless comfort is for thee. Thou sought no petty bounty, petty dole, the beggar's bowl thou ne'er hast held aloft. So that is the way that he salutes Sri Aurobindo. And talking about Tagore's work and life, even this topic would require a lot of time. So I'll just touch on a few key aspects. I grew up in a predominantly Bengali household, of course, in Kolkata, and it is but natural that Rabindranath Tagore's songs from Gito Bitan and poetry were an intrinsic part of our life. More so because my mother's family, who came from the other side of Bengal, were resorted with everything Tagore, from his writings, philosophy, to his later art. It appeared to us that Tagore wrote a song for almost every occasion and mood, be it devotion, melancholy, pujo and prayer, nature and the seasons, death and separation, love in its various hues, patriotism, and much more. So I'm very sure all of you must know about Rabindranath Tagore, the Nobel laureate, and about his work. We know that Tagore's concept of universalism was rooted deeply from his background in the Upanishads. In his early years, the verses of Ishopanishad profoundly moved Tagore. The essence of Tagore's universalism, therefore, stems from the text in the Upanishads, which was to relate and unify humankind with the universe. Of course, Tagore's love for India is evident not only in Gitanjali, for which he won the Nobel, but also in several of his other poems and songs. It is the ethos of Tagore's universalism, however, which was more accepted across the world after the First World War. During 1920 and 21, Tagore traveled extensively through countries that were devastated by the war in Europe, spreading his message on the meeting of East and West for promoting world peace. He firmly believed that world peace could only be achieved when East and West met together within a common fellowship, where knowledge would flow in two streams in both directions, and in their unity was perceived the oneness of truth that pervaded and sustained the entire universe. Tagore's conviction was so strong that he took on himself the initiative of founding his own university, as many of you know, Vishwabharati Shantiniketan, in 1921, with the motto, Vishwam Bhavati Yaka Nidam, where the world meets in one nest. This was to be a place where scholars from the West would come and share in a cultural and academic exchange between the students and the teachers. Vishwabharati then would be a meeting place for intellectual cooperation between the East and the West. So, his commitment to a cooperation of cultures between the East and West was very firm. He was really unmoved in spite of many trying to, influence him. Tagore argued that even though he did not believe in the material civilization of the West, the age had come when we must prepare the grand field for the coordination of the cultures of the world, where each will give and take from the other and not shut each other out, which is really impossible. At such a center, he added, our gaze will no longer be timid and dazed when turned towards the West, and our heads will be erect and safe from insult. Tagore allowed himself to be influenced by the world cultures of his time. Many of you know his songs. Bengalis here would know his popular songs, Phule Phule Dole Dole, which is roughly translated as flower, flower, and sway to and fro as blows breeze. And Purono Diner Kotha, would you forget about the old days, which are examples of Tagore's songs influenced by Western music. The latter song, that is Purodashi Dinner Kotha, has a Scottish Highland influence. The original song from which this tune has been derived is the well-known Scottish song Old Lang Syne by Robert Burns. I'm reminded at this juncture, I'm just going a little beyond Tagore now, of Sri Aurobindo's dream of India's spiritual gift to the world among his 5 dreams, as Benuji mentioned in her talk. This part of the message was given by Sri Aurobindo, as she mentioned, at the request of the All India Radio, Tiruchirappalli. It was broadcast on 14th August 1947. Another dream, the spiritual gift of India to the world, has already begun, he said. India's spirituality is entering Europe and America in an ever-increasing measure. That movement will grow, and with the disasters of the time, more and more eyes are turning towards her with hope, and there is even an increasing assault, not only to her teachings, but to her psychic and spiritual practice. Of course, this was in the aftermath, as you know, of the Second World War. One of the best-known quotations from Tagore, again, comes from his life's last essay, which is called Crisis in Civilization, written shortly before he died. In despair over the ongoing Second World War, he wrote, "I look back on the stretch of past years and see the crumbling ruins of a proud civilization lying heaped as garbage out of history. And yet I shall not commit the grievous sin of losing faith in man, accepting his present defeat as final. I shall look forward to a turning in history after the cataclysm is over and the atmosphere rendered clean with the spirit of service and sacrifice." So Rabindranath Tagore's humanism is really evident, as I mentioned earlier, in many of his poems in Gitanjali. 2 poems particularly, 106 and 107 numbered, in Bengali Gitanjali, entitled BhāratShakti and Auropublications, are the best illustrations of his Indianism. In the former poem, Tagore conceives India as the meeting ground of different nations of the world. Just as a place of confluence of different rivers is regarded as sacred, so also India is a holy land, being the meeting place of different peoples of the earth. Indeed, Tagore is an international humanist, as many of you referred to him, that to him the whole world is a family of humans, as many of you mentioned. So he also wrote hundreds of patriotic poems. Some say that Tagore was for nationalism, but that was in the during the Second World War and First World War. So he had that anti-nationalism, yes, in him strongly, but that was in a context. But at the same time, he was patriotic, of course. He stood for India's unity in diversity. His images, his aspirations, his ambitions, his dreams, his prayers are definitely like those of an Indian saint, an Indian humanist, an Indian thinker, an Indian sage and mystic. He, of course, penned Jana Gana Mana, as all of you know. So, looking at the time, and it was really brief, I end with gratitude with one of Tagore's most famous verses from Gitanjali, which inspires us all. It goes like this: "Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way in the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into that ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake." I get goosebumps every time I read or listen to this. Thank you so much for your time.